Okay, here we go. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 10 of The Right Stuff. We are talking with Hugh Long today. Today's topic is going to be cross-genre science fiction, or fiction, as the case may be. As always, I'm Josh Hayes, here with my buddy Scott Moon.
I'm Scott Moon, right over here. Got my favorite hat.
I'm disappointed that we're not on Blab again because I can't point.
You can't say this is my partner over here.
Over here.
Over here.
And joining us today is Canadian author Hugh Long. Welcome, Hugh.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Hugh. Before this, I got a quick question for you. You ready for all the people that are going to move to America or move to Canada when our elections happen? Because everybody says they're going to move to Canada.
We got those borders wide open. We're ready to embrace our American brothers and sisters.
There you go.
You all come
Sounds
on.
good.
That's all right.
Well, real quick this week, like we normally start off our The Right Stuff shows, it's been a really busy week for me. I've been doing, unfortunately, not quite as much writing as I'd like to do. Some projects I'm mainly doing is still working on my final revisions for Weapons of Earth, which is the third book in my Ken Rowland series. I sent off a book and another urban fantasy to an editor, and I'm writing a short story. And I've been learning a lot about marketing, so we'll just leave it at that because, I don't know, marketing is one of those done-to-death topics. Everybody thinks they know how to do it, and I definitely don't know how to do it, that's for sure. So I'm trying to learn, trying to break out of my comfort zone. But it's been a busy week at work, busy week with the family, busy work learning how to do technical stuff like set up YouTube channel, Google things. Writing.
You think that'd be easier? It sounds way easier than it actually is.
Yeah, the writing, what little writing I've done has been extremely good, so I'm happy about that. And we'll just cut me off right there. Scott's done. Scott out. Well, not out, but done talking about my week.
Bye. See you later.
What's up with you, Josh?
Oh, nothing. You know, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I meant to do a lot of writing this week. I've got a couple thousand words left to write on that wormhole short story that I've been trying to write for like 3 weeks now. It's almost done. I got like 900 words done this morning.
Sweet. Is that for an anthology?
Yeah, the
cool.
science fiction one. And then I got to start working on that other one here, hopefully next week, and I'll bang it out. But I'm in the same boat you. I've been trying to work out the stuff for the show and get Google figured out, and that's been eating up way more time than I'd really like.
Yay, Google.
What about you, Hugh? Are you working on anything specific? Have anything going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, this last couple of weeks been research for me. I've been working on a few new short stories, so I've been doing a lot of research. This week's been asteroid mining and waste management. So those are topics to combine. So that's what I've been researching this week, which has been very interesting.
Asteroid mining, it seems like it would be like if you could figure out how to do it, instant like trazillionaire. If you could figure out how to do it, like in real life.
People are doing it now. They're getting ready. In the next couple of years, they'll be mining asteroids.
Definitely in the wrong line of work.
Really.
Do you remember the show a while back where they built a rocket in their backyard in a junkyard?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Salvage with Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, I love that show.
There was one where they're going to use the rockets to push an iceberg to get fresh water someplace. I don't know. That's what asteroid reminded me of. First little free association going there. But,
Scott, your free association
from asteroids to rocket ships in a junkyard. Right
there. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember watching that show religiously almost. So.
Your free association cracks me up, Scott. I love it.
You see my cup?
Because I think you're going in one direction, and then bam, you're like way over here. Didn't see it coming. It's like that twist in The Sixth Sense where you're like, he is a dead person.
You are a dead person. That's why you see.
Spoiler alert.
Bringing up, not staying on topic, this is one of my favorite coffee cups. It's Kansas Underground Salt Museum. And you're thinking, wow, that's pretty exciting. But the reason this is an important cup to me is because the original Star Wars reels are stored in this salt museum.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's about 600 feet underground. You can take tours, and there's all kinds of stuff stored down there. It's really dry, obviously, because it's a salt mine. Basically, it's a working salt mine. But you go down in there, and it's really dark and scary. It could be like being inside of an asteroid. I imagine.
It's kind of like being inside your basement.
Point,
yeah, it's. We were doing some training on there one time, and we're going through these tunnels, and we're doing it all with night vision. And our guide would be like, "We're not going to go in that section because that's had a recent collapse." I'm like, "What? I would have not come down here if I thought there was any collapses any place." We're 600 feet underground. Holy cow, it's dark down here. Wow.
Nice.
Anyway, but yeah, so Star Wars, coffee cups, obviously connected to the topic of the day.
Yes, cross-genre coffee and Star Wars.
Well, mining's dangerous now. You imagine the guys that had to mine 150 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Those kind of conditions. We think we have tough jobs some days.
Yeah. And then doing it in zero gravity, that would probably be a blast, too.
That would be interesting, yeah.
So
Not me.
Let's get going on our topic points.
Well, I thought about this just with having Hugh on the show. Cross-genre seemed to be the most ideal topic. And that's the first thing that popped into my mind. And actually, Scott McGlasson was the one who recommended to have you on the show. So props to McGlasson.
Cool. Thanks, Scott.
McGlasson. He's awesome.
And so I started thinking about different, unique cross-genre ideas. And for those that aren't familiar or just joining the show, for the majority, we're all science fiction authors. I think we've dabbled in different genres. So Scott, I know, has done some werewolf fiction, some space marine fiction. I've done. I am writing space opera / military science fiction, but I have done just straight like adventure fiction. Hugh, you've written some unique fiction that you have published. Specifically, is it the Yggdrasil series?
Yeah, the Tribes of Yggdrasil.
There you go.
My basic premise was I wanted to see Lord of the Rings in space.
Okay.
Oh, hey, I was going to ask, because I know why I do cross-genre fiction is because I get distracted easily, obviously, but and I go down rabbit holes. But so I was thinking, why each of you, Josh and Hugh, what makes you want to write in a cross-genre? And you just kind of started to answer that, so I'll stop interrupting. You go ahead.
Yes, I mean, I never even thought about my work being cross-genre per se, because I don't really include any elements of fantasy in the work exactly. It's really, okay. I mean, I guess because I'm using faster than light travel and I'm using all kinds of gee whiz gadgets. So I guess in that respect, it's really more science fantasy. It's not hard science fiction like
right.
I don't know, like say Alistair Reynolds pushing ice or some things like that, which are a lot more say constrained to the solar system. There's no FTL. There's some real physics involved and whatnot. So in that regard, I guess I do write kind of science fantasy.
Yeah.
Right.
So, my inspiration was really, I wanted to incorporate the Norse myths, just like Tolkien did, because The Lord of the Rings really is based on Norse and Anglo-Saxon mythology.
Right.
So I want to take that to stars,
Yeah.
So it grew from that wanting to do, I like that comparison, Lord of the Ring in space. Did you, when you created it, did you have, and I don't know how many books are in the series, I know there's at least 3.
Yeah.
Is it a trilogy, or is this going to be like an overarching series, or?
The idea was to do 9 books, because in Norse mythology, 9 is a magical number. 3 threes,
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of 9s that repeat. So I thought I would basically do 3 trilogies that really tell the story of this one guy and his family as they go through basically first contact with these aliens, which turn out to be, elves and dwarves of elder lore, but they're actually advanced alien races, right? Cool. So it actually starts 100 years after they make first contact, and then takes us through the story of what happens. Humanity's got to evolve. Not only do they find these, benevolent races, but they also encounter these really nasty guys. And
oh yeah,
my work stand in, right? So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it kind of grew from there.
I had a thought, but it's gone. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We were talking a little bit before the show this morning, and the first thing that popped into my mind when I think of cross-genre And specifically, so when you take genres, so you're talking science fiction, fantasy, but you can also break that down and say like superhero could be a genre, zombies could be a genre, video gaming could be a genre, like all those things, and you put them together. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think one of the best examples of how it works and how unlikely it can be is Peter Klein's X-Heroes stories, which are basically superheroes versus zombies. And when I first read it, I was like, I'm not a big fan of zombie books, so I'm not like in. I watched The Walking Dead, but I think I stopped like on season 3. But I read X-Heroes, and I've read all of them except for Exiles, which is his newest one, and I absolutely love those books. I don't know if either of you two have read them, but they are fantastic reads.
Yeah, it's on my list for sure. I've seen some other authors in different genres that write superhero type genre. There's one, I think her name is Julia Huss. She actually writes erotica, but she has a superhero erotica book called 18. She was at the Smarter Artist Summit, and I haven't read any of her stuff yet, but
Pretty sure it's called active romance.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it probably is active romance. I haven't really, but it was interesting. You said the superheroes that brought that up.
Yeah, I really liked it when in X-Heroes specifically. The first book, I mean, it is a zombie book, but the first book kind of it not only does it intertwine the two genres, but it connects the two through the plot. And I don't want to spoil anything, but as you get to the end of the book and you figure out where all the zombies came from, and
are they vomit?
Oh God!
Are they vomit?
We're gonna talk about that in a minute because Hugh and I talked about that before we went
vomit zombies.
But hero stuff is really worth reading. I found them looking for superhero novels because I was looking for not kind of like graphic novels of Batman or Superman. I was looking for more kind of modern, superheroes with kind of grown-up themes and stuff like that. I mean, not that zombies and stuff are grown-up themes per se, but
right,
could be
something not G-rated. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So I discovered the Peter Klein series and thought they were just amazing. So yeah, he did a really good job mixing those two things.
Yeah, and what's fun is you get the story, and then you get backstory on the individual characters, and that's what it. So it starts. The book starts after the zombie apocalypse. It happens, but as you read the story, I don't know if it's every other chapter, but every few chapters you go back and it's a prior to the zombie apocalypse. It's actually the lead up, but it's told by the point of view of the heroes. Some of them told by the point of view of heroes before they came heroes. So it was very interesting, a very good read.
He's got real simple headings on those chapters. It says, then.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really dramatic, but it's so simple, but it's just, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that when I was doing some revisions recently on a story. I had taken all the chapter headings out, like in my most recent books, they just would be like chapter 17.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was wondering, and every now I go back and forth and see what you guys think about this, is if those chapter headings are SEO optimized or if the search settings. Because I had read something that the internet or Google or whatever magic alien evil elves run Google.
Definitely evil elves.
Probably Viking elves running Google, but the web crawlers index everything that is text that you put on the internet, including your entire book from start to finish. And I thought, and I wish I should probably try it again real quick, but I thought one time I picked a random sentence from one of my books, this is early on, and I threw it in my browser up there, and it found it. And so my idea is that or even just for Amazon, because Amazon's a search engine, and everybody knows it's not a bookstore, it's a search engine for books. But if you put your search head, your title, useful, good, catchy chapter headings in there, will that increase people getting connected to your books that would like your genre or your cross genre, as we're talking about? So that's just a thought. I don't know, throwing it out there.
Dave Farland, who I'm studying under right now, he's a New York Times best-selling author. He's done science fiction and fantasy, the Rune Lord series, as well as I forget what the other ones are called, the sci-fi series. Anyway, he suggested that I leave chapter headings in, but make them hooks.
Right.
So allude to whatever's going to happen in that chapter. Make it something that really draws the reader in. So, not only is it kind of an SEO opportunity, but it's an opportunity for the reader to go, holy crap, wow, I got to read this chapter now. I can't put that down. So,
because then you end your previous chapter maybe on I was listening to a podcast where you do the chapters, you do scenes and sequels.
Yeah.
And so then you would leave your previous chapter on a hook or a cliffhanger, and then that's interesting because I didn't ever put it together. You would leave your previous chapter on a cliffhanger and then start your next chapter on a hook. But I would never have made the connection to make the title of the chapter a hook. That's actually a really good idea.
I thought it was too. I'm going to try it. I haven't done it yet, but
well, you could almost do that. If you put all your chapter titles together, it could almost be a little mini story.
That's interesting, yeah.
And actually, that's very interesting because Brandon Sanderson. Hold on.
Get the sign.
Brandon Sanderson does that. That's my fanboy sign. He does that in The Final Empire. Well, his first trilogy.
So he was Dave's student, by the way.
Oh, really?
So was Stephanie of the Twilight.
Yeah.
The guy that just did the Maze Runner. These are all students of Dave's.
Dave Farland.
Dave Farland. Cannot recommend his courses highly enough. Best writing teacher out there. He has more New York Times best-selling author students than anybody out there.
I'm definitely gonna have to check him out.
Really good.
I like his webpage. Got some.
Yep.
He writes some fantasy. Oh yeah, I'll read that. That's for sure.
So I was thinking of some other cross-genre examples. Another one who's another indie author is Michael Bunker, who writes the Pennsylvania series, and that is Amish science fiction.
Probably the most unique
What?
No type of genre I've ever heard of.
Yeah,
I tell people that and they're like, huh?
It's an Amish person, and a lot of the concepts in the novel are Amish based or plain person based, as he would say. But it's also a science fiction story where they go to other planets and there's smart computers and all this other stuff, and it's a very interesting read because it's basically taking a plain person and then throwing them into this high-tech environment. So the first book, Pennsylvania, is out, and it did very well. I think it's actually been optioned for a TV show.
I think it was. I saw it on his website the other day. Yeah. Thinking about that is you think that's such a ridiculous idea, or some people might think that. But if I went to space, like say I had to go be part of an asteroid mining crew or something, I would be functionally the same as Amish because I have no idea how to make a star drive work.
Right.
I would just have to trust them that they're going to get me there where I could colonize and I could do all my expert stuff
Even your telephone right now. Like, do you know how your telephone works?
No idea.
Not so much.
I type in a number and then I press send, and actually that's a very good note because I told my wife I would do this. So for Mother's Day, she said that she wanted an Apple iWatch. And I said, go ahead, go get your Apple iWatch.
Because you're a great guy.
Because I'm a fantastic guy.
You are. That's awesome. Good job.
So she went out yesterday and she wanted to pick her color and all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, go ahead. So she comes back and she's having me set it up for her because she doesn't know how to do that. So I'm syncing it and getting everything ready, and we have this bug sprayer here who's spraying.
Is she Amish?
I don't know, but so she's getting ready to write him a check, and she says, "Oh, I don't have a pen. Hey, will you go in my purse and grab me a pen?" And so I do, but in her purse is this another box for another Apple iWatch, and so I got one too, which is
sweet,
pretty cool.
And she lets you have a man color too.
And
awesome.
She got me I was concerned it was going to be the rose gold, but it's not. It's the black and charcoal. So
awesome.
Thanks,
cool.
honey. Yeah.
Shout out. I got. Speaking of wife stories, because I got big wife bonus points this morning. So I can probably write all night tonight without getting interrupted because she forgot her phone. And I tried to chase her down the street, with their phone in my hand. I was running down the street in my
Oh
pajamas.
God, I
and my
wish I would have
socks.
seen that.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my God.
it would have been one of the, it could have been like an exclusive for the newsletter sign up or something, because it was like, if there had been like a refrigerator on the front porch, it would have been perfect. But so I'm chasing her down the street, my hairy man arms and my pajamas and my socks.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I couldn't catch her. I'm not, But then so I went, got dressed, jumped in the car, drove to her work, brought it, recorded a video on it, say, hey, I'm bringing you your phone, honey, and love you, blah blah blah. Turned it off, and I walked in there and gave it to her, and so I have to think that's worth some points, at least.
Oh
like
yeah,
2
it's
or
got to
3.
be.
So, which is rare because normally I'm just annoying. If anybody knows me personally.
No, not at all. Have either you guys? I think all of you have read. Well, all 2 of you, both of you have read Leviathan Wakes.
Oh yeah.
By James S.A. Corey.
Sure.
It's
Which is a pen name.
yes for 2 authors. I bring this up only because I can't say that the book itself is actually cross genre, but I know that
I'd say it is.
I think that he hit a genre that completely ruined it. Well, okay, it didn't ruin the book because obviously it's doing very well. But you mentioned it earlier, and Hugh and I talked about it, was the vomit zombie aspect of the book. And I when I read that the first time, like it was a great science fiction, like almost like a Firefly type small spacecraft, with
That's a good analogy, yeah.
yeah, with several, a small crew, and then you have the cop that's doing his investigation, and it's all going back and forth. And I thought it was very, very cool that the dynamic would work. And then you get to this spot like halfway through the novel, and now they're fighting vomit zombies. Spoiler alert!
Well,
and I just couldn't process it. And I don't know if it's just the name that he chose or that he actually put them in the book, but it almost made me not finish reading it. I don't know. What were you guys' thoughts on that?
I thought that, I think for one, it was like a good example of cross zombie, but then he went and added a third genre. He had like science fiction, he had a hard-boiled detective, and then let's add zombies, and it was just too much.
Oh, fantastic point.
Yeah, and I didn't like that. And I also, the other point, which is a little bit subtler than the vomit zombies, is when he went from being this kind of a burnout cop, hardcore, kind of a Harry Bosch kind of thing, to being like, his main emphasis was he was a killer. And then he became one-dimensional from there on out.
Right.
But I loved it up to that point, and I was able to kind of cruise right over top of the vomit zombies and move on and enjoyed it. But
What about you?
I'd say it's cross-genre.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, the zombies, from a science fiction standpoint, really makes sense because if you think about all the developments in biological warfare, I mean, it's a very realistic possibility. Even in the animal kingdom, there's examples of these. I forget whether it's a fungus, I believe, that infests ants.
Okay.
And basically turns them into zombies. Have you guys?
Yeah.
Really?
It's bizarre, right?
That's
So
badass.
I don't know. It didn't bother me that much. Plus, it was kind of I don't know. It was a short period in the book where these vomit zombies were kind of going on. So to me, it didn't really bother me. But
I think maybe if he had chose, like Josh said, if he had maybe handled the description a little differently, or
It just sounded a little. It sounded
like
a
he
little
rushed
like
through
he
that
couldn't come
part.
up with something cool. Like he had all these great names for everything else that was going on, and then just vomit zombies. So I was like,
I think that's deliberate, right? The idea there is, I mean, you want to resonate with the reader. Everybody knows what a zombie is. If you had called it something else,
okay.
I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate.
I stand corrected.
And he
Well,
did.
no.
It makes sense.
No, I agree, and I wanted to add too that one of the things I think was the most amazing about that story was the con language or the constructed language.
Oh, loved it. It was very
Because
cool.
I didn't realize that's actually a whole subset of skills that people just do constructed languages, and he
Yeah.
did a brilliant job. So to go from this brilliant set of multiple layers of constructed languages to vomit zombies, it was like I'm doing brilliant work here. I'm working hard. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm too lazy. I'm having a bad day. I'm just going to go with vomit zombies and move on.
Wait,
and
so
that's
I'm
kind of how I
confused.
felt.
What's the language that you're talking about?
Con language. I bought a book a while back. It's called a conlanger. Is somebody who constructs fictional languages from the ground up, and I'll show you the book. But
Whole hobby.
Yeah, it's too much for me to do, but basically it teaches you how to build an actual functioning language that you can speak, write, and use in your stories. And there's different levels. There's like constructed language that's just a naming language, like I'm going to name all the places on my map.
I'm
And then
tracking you.
there's the Lord of the Rings where you construct a language where you can literally have a conversation Elvish or Klingon or what's the
You're talking about the Belter language.
right, the Belgian language. You know, it was so, and especially the reader in that audiobook was so good. It made me just go, man, I was totally engrossed in the story when I heard that.
Yeah.
Now, did you know for the television show, one of these conlangers actually developed the entire language?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I didn't know. I haven't seen the show yet.
Oh yeah, it's.
I can't wait.
I like the books 10 times better than the show.
I'm
The
always
show
like
was
that.
still okay. I still enjoyed the show.
There's very few movies I like better than the books, but I've had to, as a writer, I've had to come to the point where books and movies are different. I love them both. Let's not rub them together too much.
I enjoyed
the visual. You know, I've seen the first 5 or 6 episodes. I don't know if I finished the series yet. I should, but the visuals, the special effects in that show are so well done.
They're good.
They're nothing like most Sci-Fi Channel series look cheesy. Like there's no other way around it. Like giant shark and megalodon going at it. Like horrible.
They're up to number 4. What the hell?
and Sharknado. Come on.
Well, it's like bad. Yeah. So.
Well,
there's just people throw stuff out there and people buy it because it's bad.
Right.
I don't really get it.
No,
Yeah.
but I thought the visuals for the Expanse series were phenomenal. The ship models, the station models, even just the look of outer space, like that you look out through windows, was very well done. I thought.
Here's a question for you guys that have for Josh, you've read the books recently, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember there being a Mormon ship in the book. Was it? Okay.
In the third, is it the third book?
Oh, it's the first. It's mentioned. It's mentioned in all of them, and they were building it at Tycho Station. And actually, that was one of the big differences that I saw was that they never I don't think in the first book they actually did anything with that ship.
They show it. Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah, they did because they
they use it to
they
try
to shoot it
Yeah.
at the no spoiler alerts here, but they try to shoot it to stop all that stuff from happening.
That's right.
So
I thought that was a very cool addition. Like that was a very cool concept. The whole concept of these Mormons going to colonize another star system.
Right.
Because I can totally see that happening.
making the generation ship there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be hard for people to band together to do that unless they've got some real cohesion.
Absolutely.
The Mormons went to the West and built Utah basically, right? So
Yeah.
It's very believable because if you just have a group of people they want to leave just cause, like okay.
yeah.
But to have some kind of background on, okay, it's happened before. Yeah, you're right. We can see with the technology going the way it is, that makes progressive logical sense that they're first of all that they have the means to do something like that financially, and that there's a purpose to what they're doing. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So cross genre. Did you have some other cross genre things, or you want to stay on this one for a while?
No, I mean, I think I don't know if you can. I don't know if either of you.
I got one more example that I think is really great. There's a guy named Mike Cole, Myke, and he writes this series Shadow Ops. Basically, magic has come back into the world, and the government controls magic and uses it. So these special ops teams and in the army.
Is magic called Google?
No, magic like you fire out of your fingers and teleporting and all that sort of stuff. So.
Okay.
Anyway, his is it's really cross genre. It's like thriller, military sci-fi fiction rather with fantasy. It's a really cool intersection.
So is that when you say military science fiction, is that like a space marine type?
No, it's all kind of a modern world. So it's sort of like around present day. There's no like real super tech or anything like that. It's
Call of Duty.
Military plus magic.
Like Call of Duty plus magic.
Yeah. And Mike is actually he's an ex-soldier. He was in special ops, counterterrorism, law enforcement. You know, this guy's got the chops to write this sort of stuff,
Oh, yeah.
right? He knows
Absolutely.
what he's talking about. So
And you said his name is Mike Cole?
yeah, MYKE.
I gotta hold on. I'm putting that in my search browser. MYKE. What was the last name? Oh, it comes
Cole.
Cole. Yeah, it's right there. One of my first things.
He's got a new author pick with a big beard. He's a badass looking fellow, I tell you.
He looks like he should be like freaking in Black Hawk Down or.
Yeah, I know.
One of those. I'm going to now kill you.
Yeah.
Read my book.
Yeah,
or
I'd
you
be
will
intimidated to read his books. Like, okay, I'm reading them.
If you don't like my book, I'm coming to your house.
That's right.
Do you know if is he traditionally published or is he?
I don't know.
Oh wow,
I think he is.
Mike Cole, writer.
See, if you look at the publisher name on the books.
Yeah, he looks like he was. This is interesting because I just watched a trailer last night for a movie called Deepwater Horizon.
Okay.
And in this guy's bio, it says he's done 3 tours in Iraq and was recalled to serve during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. That's very unique.
Right.
That's interesting.
This, if you look at his webpage, it's got an entry team stacked up on the door, and the third guy there, the breacher, I guess, has a fireball in his hand or something.
Right.
He's not wearing a helmet because he must have a magic hat on too.
He does. They have shields, and I mean, no joke, they really do.
All right.
That's
all right.
very cool. It looks like he's published
Penguin. So he's with the big
Great.
boy.
Yeah,
Great. One more thing for me to read.
Yeah. I don't know if Second Star, my science fiction Neverland story, I don't know if you could consider it cross-genre. It's more just a science fiction adventure. The only cross-genre aspect I could think of is that it takes a fairy tale and turns on its end.
It's Neverland in science fiction in a science fiction setting.
Yeah.
Sort of.
But I think, Scott, your werewolf detective story, Die Like a Man, I think that could be very much cross genre.
Yeah, that's kind of a, and it's it's obviously got some paranormal. It's paranormal, and I kind of bill it as crime, suspense, and paranormal fiction. So it'd be the best way to describe that. But yeah, it's definitely cross genre, and I like it. It's one of the better written books. I put a lot of work into it. It took me 10 years to write, kind of on the side, from time to time, and it's hard to market. That's the other thing about cross genre is I read a book recently on marketing called Positioning, and basically the thesis of the book is you got to be first. So if you're the first man on the moon, your name is
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong. If you're the second man on the moon, your name is, and you guys might know this.
I don't know.
I got nothing.
I don't know this. And so basically, or like Tom Clancy, techno thrillers, he's first.
Right.
And there's probably lots of other great ones out there, but who was literally the second big techno thriller success?
I got
Megastar.
nothing.
No. So if you write a really unique cross-genre thing and it hits, then you get to rule the world.
Right.
But until then, marketing is a huge pain in the backside. My opinion.
Hugh, I've seen that you not only have you written this that I'm going to mispronounce it, Yggdrasil, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yggdrasil.
Awesome.
That you've also written an epic fantasy. It looks like you just published that last summer.
Just a novella, just a short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you primarily write science fiction, or what's your favorite genre to write in?
I think I prefer science fiction. I like space. I want to see what's out there. You know what I mean? That to me is the most interesting and most kind of inspiring thing, is to go out into the galaxy and see what's there. Go to other galaxies, you know?
Absolutely.
How about you, Josh? What's your favorite?
I'd have to say science fiction, definitely. I want to dabble in some contemporary fiction, and the second short story I'm writing this spring is a contemporary fiction mystery thriller. But I really love science fiction. It's what I've grown up reading, watching on TV, because you can do so much. You can do so much with it. And if you have an idea and you think, oh, that'd be cool if we had some kind of, I don't know, laser gun that works in a certain way or whatever. You can we could put that into the story because it's science fiction.
As long as you establish the rules and then stick to them, which sometimes
Right.
I'm a little loose with that, but yeah, I always think I always say that I'm a fantasy writer is my thing because that's where I started out. But when I sit down and write, I'm almost always wind up writing the science fiction.
Right.
It's just I don't know. It just kind of happens I don't know. It's calling.
It is, and it's funny because the three authors four people we've had on the Right Stuff and live have been primarily science fiction related authors. Nick Cole doesn't. I don't think he's written any space opera, but we had Ralph Kern on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I think episode 5 of the Right Stuff we had. I can't remember his name, but he was the executive producer of the Star Trek fan film anthology, and that was pretty cool to have him on. But it's funny because there's so many people that absolutely love science fiction and write it and read it, and then there's so many people that are like, oh, I could never read that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's because they're wrong.
And it,
Not with Scott here.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
It's, Peter F. Hamilton, who wrote the Void trilogy, which I think is kind of cross-genre. It's got fantasy elements and science fiction elements, but I love all of his work. He said that for the people that say they can't read it, that they don't understand it, it might not be their fault. It might be the author's fault because the author has not. Well, he says because if any type of book that you read, it should be easy to read. It should be able to, you can sit down and you can read it and you can understand it. If you're reading through a book and you're saying, I don't understand what this is, I don't understand what they're saying, it's that the author has not done his job not explaining it, but if you say, for instance, one of the words he uses in his books are array, and basically an array is a computer, but because they don't think of it as a computer, they think of it as an array, the character in a story. They don't really explain it because it's like, why would we explain an iPhone? Right. When I say I pick up my iPhone, that's everybody knows what it is. Yeah. But as you start reading it, you get the context of what's happening, and then you understand an array is a computer.
And that's an important thing for a difference between a pro writer and somebody who's new is in the book Self-Editing for Fiction Writers, it has a formula, and it's ROE, and it says resist. It's RUE, resist the urge to explain.
Yeah.
And when you're world building, you have to a certain extent, but boy, you got to keep it under control. And so that's a great example of that, where he took a chance. He took a chance that people are going to go, I don't know what this array is. This is dumb. I'm moving on. So, yeah. Well, then it's Peter F. Hamilton, so you can do that.
Josh was talking about books that if they're just well written, you just read them. So a couple of years ago, I was doing a little research on young adult fiction. I wanted to start writing to that market because, some of my protagonists were younger, and I thought, well, let me make sure I'm doing things right.
Sure.
And so I ordered a bunch of books from some of the top-selling authors, and I got this one called Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. I read the damn thing in one sitting.
Oh, yeah.
So good. I am not into teen girls and angels, which is what this book was about.
Yeah, it sounds like an obvious go-to book for me.
Scott definitely is.
Yeah,
I totally read that thing in one sitting. My wife was shocked. But that girl, I can't even tell you why that book was so good. But there must have been so many little hooks and the flow and the characters, and I just couldn't put it down.
Got your interest and kept you there. And that's the thing, too, is you got to not only build your world, but then you got to make it entertaining. So it sounds like this. What was the name of this author?
Becca Fitzpatrick.
Becca Fitzpatrick.
And it's totally not my genre. So if an old dude like me in his late 40s could read Hush Hush in one sitting, that girl did something right. And of course, she's sold millions of books. I mean, she's a huge success commercially. But there's a reason.
The same thing happened to me. I was reading one of my author buddies, Ernie Lindsay, who writes in several different genres, young adult dystopia, superhero, and just mystery in general, and some paranormal stuff. And he sent me this book called Super, and it was the first superhero book I'd ever read. And
it's on my list.
It kind of like what you're saying. I sat down to read it, and normally it takes me maybe a week or so, 2 weeks to read a book, depending on how long it is, unless I'm listening to it on Audible. Uh, but you can ask my wife. I walked around with my iPad for like
Bumping into the fridge.
yeah, 6 hours. Just I can't stop. I can't stop reading it, and it was fantastic. And I'm not huge into superhero books. Like I liked Peter Klein's stuff, and I liked this book super, but I don't actively go out to find superhero books. And it was a fantastic read. It was fun. It was catchy. He had seen sequel down better than anybody else I've read so far. Where you in the chapter on a cliffhanger that forces you go to the next one, and then when you hit the next one, the hook just pulls you right in. And even the beginning of the book, like everybody has, you got to have a perfect first line. I read the opening of his book, and I was in there really good because it's basically it starts out as superheroes in like an Alcohol Anonymous meeting, and it's very fun. It's a very good read.
Well, that's been just bumping into the top of my to read pile for several months because I've had it since you recommended it, and it's just right there, and it's always my next book, and it's probably gonna have to get read here pretty quick because.
Ernie Lindsay, yep.
Yeah, got it up here. All right, that looks cool. I'm gonna take a look at it.
It's super fun. His War Child series is pretty good too. I'm trying to think of what else I've read by. Oh, his paranormal series, the Graveyard series, is basically like a ghost hunter series with paranormal. But yeah, very very good. And I don't know that he's ever done any cross genre like in his books, but he definitely writes across many genres and does it well. And I think so if you're going to pick several different genres to write in or to combine them, I would say before you combine them, do it separately well before you jump into trying to mash them together, because if you haven't mastered...
Can you elaborate that point, the difference between a cross genre and across genres?
Okay, yeah, so a cross genre would be... I'll use X Heroes as an example. Superheroes and zombies. That is a cross genre book, so you're combining the two. If you're writing across genres, so like Scott, you do werewolf, detective, paranormal works, but you also do space military. You're not combining the two.
Right. Separate books.
Those two genres.
So you got experience in both genres, but you're not writing in one particular story doesn't contain both.
Right.
But you've worked your chops in both ones. That makes sense.
Yes, I would definitely recommend, because I don't do any cross genre stuff, even though I have a couple ideas to do it. But if you really want to write cross genre, I believe that you should master. Even if it's just writing one or two books that maybe you don't publish.
You should master Teen Girls and Angels first.
Yes.
Before you move
master Teen Girls separately.
That's my next project, man. I'm telling you.
This is so going to get us on like the 9 o'clock news. Master Teen Girls separately, and then do werewolves.
Then do Vomit Zombies.
Yes. But definitely master the specific genre. And then, or not master it. I mean, I don't know if you could ever master writing, or if anybody ever has, but
get good.
Get good at writing science fiction. And if you want to combine, Lord of the Rings in space, and do maybe, and then you have a fantasy novel if you want to combine those two. Get good at doing either one before you combine them. That's my recommendation, anyway, for what it's worth.
Probably a safe bet. Or read a lot in all those genres, as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that a lot of people that I see on a couple of Facebook groups that I'm a part of aren't enormous readers, but they are very prolific writers, and you can tell that they don't read in their writing. And I don't want to call anybody out, but you can tell, but you read their stuff, and amateurish might be a harsh word.
Well, and what Stephen King in his book on writing, I probably mentioned this one almost every episode too, some of these, but he says if you don't have time to read, then you don't have the time to write,
Exactly.
And you don't got the skills.
Right.
You don't have the time or the skills to write if you don't have time to read.
Absolutely.
And so I make myself read. I do crazy, silly stuff to read. I'm listening to audiobooks when I'm mowing the yard and, reading on the treadmill, whatever, because you got to get that reading in for sure.
Yeah, well, that's our fuel, right? We've got to have new ideas. We've got to get new perspectives, and even if it's just a little bit here and there, it really helps.
And plus, if you don't like books enough to read them, why are you writing them?
That's such a good point.
I'd be like, I hate basketball, but I really want to be in the NBA.
Right.
Yeah.
No, with a capital D.
Might want to rethink that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'd like to pick a career path that's going to make me miserable because I actually don't really like to read. So let's be a writer. Yeah. So I don't know, and I wonder. There's probably lots. It's not even though I love to write. I've been writing for 33 years seriously. I mean, like this is what I want to do with my life. And even now, sometimes I like the idea of having finished something better than writing it sometimes, because sometimes it's great to go. But then other days, like this morning, I woke up. Of course, insomnia is my friend, and I got up there and wrote like 500 words on a story I'm working on, and I was just like in pure paradise.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of writing it, if everything's going great. Now, when I get to the edits in a couple of more weeks on that story, I'll probably be punching myself in the throat. But
I hate editing.
Yeah. It can be fun if it's working.
I don't mind it the first time. But when it's the 10th or 12th time, I'm looking at that damn paragraph.
Right.
The 150th time.
God. And, literally.
I just want to shut down my Mac and then never turn it back on.
Josh and I are going to the Oklahoma Writers Inc. Writing Conference next week. And I love it. I mean, when I went there a few years ago for the first time, I was like, oh my God, my people! I'm around writers. I can't believe it. I was ridiculously happy. That's kind of why I like doing this. Talking to people that love the same thing I love is so awesome. But there's a guy that's going to be there, and I've heard him talk before, named Stephen James, and he writes some thrillers and some stuff. And he's an excellent speaker. He's got like some sort of advanced postgraduate degree in oral storytelling from someplace in Kentucky. But he talked about when he writes that he'll go through, somebody asked him how many times he goes through and self-edits. And so he started keeping track. And he said, I quit after 50, keeping track. And I know that because I've got some stories where the first 3 chapters have probably been edited and revised 50 to 100 times. And, when you get a long work, like my work in progress right now is 106,000 words, which isn't huge, but try reading that 50 times through with a careful eye,
Yeah.
So it can wear you down.
Well, one thing I do now is my wife used to edit my books for me, but she's really busy with her new career, so she doesn't have time to even read them anymore. Mm-hmm. So I went on to Fiverr.com where you can buy these really cheap packages of work for people. Like they'll do, I don't know, say read 2,000 words for $5. And that's really just a starting point, right? So the Fiverr is just kind of the hook.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these people provide these editing services. I've got beta readers off there, and I have a few people now that I send my work to religiously. So I have a first reader, and she reads the really rough stuff and gives me any kind of structural feedback or anything I'm looking on. Then when I think I'm done, I send it to a beta reader, and she, gives me a read, and we do a little bit more refinement. And as a last step, I send it to a proofing editor where she, goes line by line and does all that. And I'll tell you, these have really saved me a lot of hair pulling, which you can see I don't have much left here right today. So.
Trust me, I'm way ahead of you. Unless we're moving like my arms or something, then I got no hair.
Yeah.
How much self-editing
That's why I got the hat.
How much self-editing do you do before you send it off to that first person?
I probably go through at least 2 or 3 passes myself. So every morning before I continue to write the whatever I'm working on, I re-edit the previous day's work. It's a practice I read in some book, and I think it's great. It really works for me.
That's On Writing by Stephen King too. And probably other books.
We need to get you a sign, Scott.
I know.
But it also gets me in the mood to write write that day's story or whatever, because I'm reconnecting the threads from yesterday or whatever. So, and then typically I'll go over it at least 1, maybe 2 more times, until I'm comfortable with it. Then send it off to the.
Now, how long are your books generally? They're pretty long books.
Yeah, I try to shoot for 120K now, just because that's what. If you go on to publishers like Bain, they're looking for like a minimum of 120K.
Sure. And so my question
Right.
is then how do you keep moving? Because I kind of use that same thing, but I tend to keep going all the way back to the beginning, and it works great until you get, until you get to the point where you got to read for 7 or 8 hours to get to where you're going to write that day. So you just kind of just go like
Oh,
what
I'm
you
sorry,
wrote
I
just the
don't.
day before.
Yeah, I don't. I just read what I wrote the previous day.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
yeah, that's the way to do it.
and then eventually, like I'll do a whole chapter review, just a quick review. That's
Do you plan it? Are you plotter or pantser?
Oh yes. Oh, I'm an extreme plotter.
Okay.
I don't do the pants. I just can't.
What about you, Josh?
I used to be a pantser, but I am now reformed. And it's funny because well, I don't even know that I plot anymore. I beat, but it's basically the same thing. But I used to be a seat of the pants writer. My first book I wrote in a one subject notebook, longhand
That's cool.
with pen when I was 14, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I
I've never
managed
done
to.
that.
It's funny because I read it now. Well, I skim it. I don't read it because it gives me headaches. But I skim it now, and I go from beginning to end. And even not knowing what I was doing at 14, sometimes that flows a lot better than what I work on now.
Well,
and and it's got all it has an ending, and it's a horrible ending, but it ends. But I used to do, I'd start out with an idea and then write. But now I think it works a lot better than it. I start out with an idea still, but I save a lot of time by going through and plotting, and figuring out, my main points, and then backtracking from those, filling it out, and then starting to write. It's kind of like the short story I'm writing now, the Wormhole short story. I had 10,000 words of notes before I actually wrote the narrative.
Wow.
And so what I do is I'll just sit there, and they always say show don't tell. Well, in my first draft, I tell everything.
you're telling it to yourself.
Yeah,
You build. You're discovering the story.
absolutely.
That's good. Good to go.
So my 10,000 words is just complete. I say he's upset because of this, and then I go to the next thing. And then when I actually write the narrative, I'll make it a little flowery and kind of describe it a little bit more. But so out of 10,000 word notes, I'm at, I think, like 8,200 words of narrative, and I still have. I'm probably gonna have to cut a lot out because I'm coming up on the 10,000 word limit for the story.
Because you have a limit because it's for an anthology. I'm writing a short story that I'm going to use as a reader magnet for my kind of promotional stuff, and I was going to have it be 10,000, but I realized that it doesn't have to be 10,000. It could be 12,000. It's not going to hurt. But if you turn that in, they'd be like, hey, it won't fit.
Yeah, exactly. So you said you're a plotter, Hugh. How do you outline? Obviously 10,000 words is a lot, obviously, for you, but for planning, what do you do for planning your novels?
So that's really evolved over the last couple of years, and I've been reading. I've read, I don't know, probably half the books on writing that are out there. It's obsession these days.
Yeah, me too.
But I really feel like if I can plan the thing perfectly, it'll be this masterpiece. You know what I mean? So what I typically do is I start off with a log line. I have some kind of a concept, some kind of a story, and then I write that 21-word or 20-word log line, something that is, close enough that it'll almost fit into a tweet, right? Just to capture the essence of the story. Then I typically expand that to a short paragraph so that it's a little bit more of the story, it digs into a little bit more of the details, and, this is how I'm kind of developing the plot in these small little steps.
Right.
Then now my new process is I start to write a synopsis, which is something I used to be doing. It was like the worst thing ever. But I found this really cool kind of a structure for a synopsis, and there's like these 9 points, and I just fill in these 9 points, and I'm really happy with that because that is my roadmap. And at the end of it, it might be, say, 2 to 3 pages of written material.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of problem lately with planning, and I'm like I said, I'm a reformed pantser as well, so I'm going to use some of your tips, I think. Um, and I got to where I was plotting and beating and stuff, but now I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plot it all out, and then I'm going to throw that outline away or set it to the side because I get myself into such corners. Sometimes I feel really constrained by the by the plot. But if I had all that detail like you guys are talking about, boy, it would make me a lot faster, better writer. I hope so. So
Yeah.
I actually learned quite a lot on this show. This is pretty cool.
And your outline doesn't have to be a prescriptive thing, right? This is
Right.
it's a piece of inspiration. It's something to get you started. It's like a roadmap. And you may think, oh, look, I think I'm going to go over there now. Then that's cool. As long as you recognize that and you know where you're going.
Do you adjust your outline when that happens?
Yeah, I do.
Cool.
I usually try to stick to it as much as I can because in the outline, what I'm trying to do is get the mechanics, make sure that the plot is logical, that there's a satisfying conclusion, that kind of the basic mechanics of a good story are there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go and flesh out those pieces. It's also the part that I share with people, too. I'll share that with other writers. Here's my synopsis. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
This work.
Glasson showed me his synopsis for his.
McGlasson has a
made him
great
write it.
story.
I made him write it.
You know what's funny about that is I asked him one time, hey, send me what you got. He sent me his first chapter, and I won't give his story away, but he's writing cross-genre too. Hopefully we'll have him on the show sometime. So he started sending me the chapter summaries, and his chapter summaries are ridiculously long. I think
they're very detailed.
he had like 50,000 words of summary written on his book.
So it's kind of like,
oh my God, you've almost written the entire book. But then he told me his overarching plan for the series, and I think it's very good. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that done. I'm going to be I'm going to be the first person at the store when that thing comes out for sure.
He's a great writer.
Oh yeah, fantastic writer.
Quit his day job now and just damn well finish this thing because I want to read it. So
well, we're coming up on the hour. We decided to let this run long instead of doing 2 half-an-hour shows because I was having a lot of fun.
It's been a good show. I've learned a lot and had fun.
And Hugh, I want to thank you for coming on. We'll have to have you on again, either on the Right Stuff show or on our live author interview show. I think both formats are fun. I think that the Right show is fun to have on and just kind of have a conversation about writing in books. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime. Appreciate you guys having me.
All right. Good to meet you.
Well, we're going to shut it off here. Thank you guys for viewing us on YouTube and listening to us on our podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And next week we're going to be, if you're watching live, next week we're going to be in Oklahoma. So we will not have a live show per se where we're doing it like this. We may, however, do it where Scott and I are actually sitting
like on location.
Doing on
location
the Right Stuff
on
broadcast.
Location.
That's right. And we're going to be vlogging the event too. So we're gonna be taking a lot of video and uploading that so you guys can kind of share our experience when we go down there. But thanks everybody for tuning in. We are Keystroke Medium, Josh Hayes and Scott Moon. We have had Hugh on the show today on the Right Stuff, and that'll do it for episode 10.
Thank
you guys.
See you guys.
Take it easy.